clarify here. Yeah, that's right. So we're back with another episode of Through the Looking Glass. But before we get into that, I just want to say a big thank you to you all for all of the support I've been getting on my last video, which was another episode of Autobots and Decepticrafts. Whether you've watched it, shared it, or liked it, it's been great. It's been one of my best grossing videos. It's certainly done the best in the limited time that it's been up. So just a big thank you to you all. It's still all about getting the name out there. So any sharing you can do, I really, really appreciate it. Hashtag Team Arrowfire. Also, I just want to show you quick my purchase from Toy Fu at TF Nation, because he's finally come. Here is Masterpiece Blue Streak, and I love him. Now, a lot of people, of course, are getting their Earthrise Blue Streak, and he does look good, but I just think this is a really, really good figure. This is the first one of the Nissan mould, if you like, that I've actually had, and I just really love him. I can't decide whether I want to keep him in robot mode or in vehicle mode. I think he looks great in both. But I have got the stickers coming from Toy Hacks, and I think that really makes him pop from what I've seen. Right, so where were we? This is another episode of Through the Looking Glass, and today we are looking at everyone's favourite six changer, Sixshot. Mostly because there aren't many six changers anyway. Now, there aren't many different incarnations of Sixshot, so it's going to be quite hard to do any comparisons against them. But that's never stopped us before, so let's holster up. So for those of you who don't know, Sixshot was introduced in the last season of the Generation 1 cartoon, outside of Japan anyway, in one scene during one of the 3 episodes that made up a season that lasted 29 seconds. I know, you couldn't make it up, could you? In this, Sixshot was introduced as a one robot army and introduced all of his 6 different modes, taking out the aerial bots one after the other. Now, I don't really want to admit this, but Transformers shows have always had this stigma of being glorified toy commercials, but it's hard to argue that here. Suffering from what I will now refer to as Boba Fett syndrome, Sixshot only gets one line that's a handful of words, but he does show off his 6 different modes whilst wielding 2 guns and having a mean green paint scheme. All I can say is, subliminal messaging has worked. In fact, I almost got my own version of the Sixshot toy back in the day. It was in a toy shop called Gamley's, but my mother wouldn't buy it for me, and I've never let her live it down because I haven't been able to track it down since, not really anyway. However, I probably should stop going on about it, because when the Titans Return line came out, I made her buy this one for me to make up for it. Some 30 years later, so she probably just bought it for me so I would shut up. In Japan, after the conclusion of the Generation 1 cartoon, the Headmasters miniseries kind of went its own direction with things and started promoting some lesser known characters to the forefront, arguably none more so than Sixshot, who himself has quite some memorable moments, such as appearing in multiple places at once, killing Ultra Magnus, having a glass of Energex with the faceplate, and befriending Daniel Witwicky. In this series he's much more ruthless. Not that he wasn't in his previous 29 seconds of fame that we saw before, but killing Ultra Magnus was eye-opening. He also seems to be more of a sergeant commanding the Target Masters under Galvatron's rule. The Marvel Comics didn't have a lot of time for Sixshot. He's under the command of Scorponok and can be seen travelling to Nebulos, but other than that there's not much for him. The comics followed a different timeline to the Generation cartoon as it was, and he was introduced so late into the cartoon as it is, so there's no surprise they didn't have much for him before the comics came to their conclusion. However, in modern day comics they've more than found a use for Sixshot. In Dreamway Productions he was selected to what's become known as a Phase Sixer, and if you don't know what that is, it's essentially a hyper-powered bot that very few consist of. This Sixshot comes across as more of a hitman or even a bounty hunter. And there's that Boba Fett reference again. He's certainly confident in his abilities, and even some of the Decepticons are concerned about his strength, arguably more so than the Autobots are. In IDW's first phase, Sixshot goes on a slaughter mission of the Throttlebots, and there's clearly no contest here. I don't care how many there are, and they know it. But things change when a certain Titan turns up. In Metroplex's Spotlight comic, when all hope seems lost for our chubby crew, Metroplex lends a hand. Literally. And And whilst it looks like Sixshot is offline, we know better. This Sixshot just accentuates his Headmaster series personality. He's way too overconfident and talks too much, which is ultimately his downfall, at least in this story arc. So in summary, for a bot who hasn't appeared in a movie and has had limited TV appearances, he has been thriving in the comic universe. His toy, either from the 1980s or modern day, still proves to be a hit, as he's one of only 2 Six changes on the toy market. He has a mercenary persona and a particular set of skills. You'd think he would be a prime candidate for the DJD. There's a frightening prospect. And there you have it. That's Sixshot Through the Looking Glass. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or have a glass of Energex. And I'll see you on the next one.